What's going on, everybody? All right, Monday's video, I usually do my response with all of your responses to my question from the previous week, where I said, hey, when you guys go to card shows, do you bring a list? Do you think a list is a good idea, or could it be a bad idea? But my daughters came home from their Europe trip over the weekend, and I said, I'm not gonna make a video, I'm gonna hang out with my daughters. And so what I did is I took that awesome interview with Dylan Double D Vintage Baseball Cards and my buddy Joe Perot from Sports Cards Live, and I broke it in half and I played the second half. So if you haven't watched that interview, I really think you'll enjoy it. But nonetheless, that's the reason for the delay. So on Monday, this coming Monday, is the day that we are going to respond and share thoughts on preparations for a card show, because this is National Month. The National is less than a month away. It starts in July, it ends in August, but it kind of straddles the 2 months. But we are in the month of the National, and I'm excited for that. But there's more. But wait, there's more. This Monday, July 7th at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, we will be having MidLife Live number 7. MidLife Live number 7 is going to be on Monday night. Mark your calendars. You're not going to want to miss it. At the end of this episode, at the very end of this episode, I will show the preview of who's going to be on with me for MidLife Live number 7 on Monday. Again, that is Monday, July 7th, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. You're not going to want to miss it. But today is Wednesday, and Wednesday means it's Q&A day. So I've actually got 7 questions this week. 3 of those questions are tied into my first response. So I'm about to read 2 questions that are very similar, and I'm going to share my thoughts on it. And I think it's a super important topic, regardless of where you are in collecting, regardless of the value of your collection, regardless of whether you're a collector, you're an investor, you're a dealer. I think it matters. Let's take a look at the first 2 questions that I'll have one response to right here.
This first one says, I'm considering selling all my graded cards. Just going raw, original, pure, naked, whatever you want to call it. Grading companies make too much money, and the cards are too expensive. Your thoughts? And a similar question asks, Greg, I like when you show what you can buy for $40 to $50 and it blows your mind show. Recently, on one of your videos, you said you had a group of cards you were kind of wanting to grade, but for some reason you have not done that yet. I'm in the same boat, and somehow Mike from Junk Wax Hero, maybe not word for word, said he kind of feels PSA is disingenuous, and he was talking about CGC. I feel that way too. What about the 1917 PSA holder of the bent check? I get it, grading has some advantages, but I don't believe it's 100% just another person's opinion on a good day or bad day that they are having. A card could have been cleaned with a card cleaning kit or trimmed. I know you show some raw cards at shows you visit, but what if you took $300 from a grading submission and what you could buy in ungraded cards? Do you think many people got caught up in the running herd of COVID to recent times trying to keep up with the Rockefellers? I think I did somewhat in coming back to just smelling the vintage cardboard that smells like old newspapers, like Mr. Mangini. Thank you.
All right. First off, That second comment, he did then follow up and say, I didn't mean to make it seem like Mr. Mangini smells like old newspapers, just that he likes to experience cards and smell the cards, and old cards do kind of smell like an old library book or old newspapers, sort of like Mangini has mentioned. So I do need to make sure I threw that in there. He wasn't trying to say that Mangini smells like old newspapers. Now, these two questions are fantastic, and I know a lot of us go, oh my gosh, more grading talk. I'm going to continue to talk about grading. I'm going to continue to talk about grading because it is so absolutely intertwined into the hobby, into values, into future values, into past values. It matters. And so if it matters, I'm going to talk about it. Now, the first thing I want to say here, I'm going to have a few people get a little bit annoyed with me. I want to start by saying that I don't think grading companies are far from perfect. We know that. But they're not as bad as people sometimes make them out to be. It's easy to throw stones at PSA. It's easy to win there is a mistake to pull it out and go, look what they did here. And they happen. You know, the mistake that's referenced in that second question, in case you hadn't heard, there was a vintage canceled check that had an autograph of it and obviously a rare item. And it didn't fit the slab, and so it got folded. It got folded over so that it then fit in the slab. That is not really an excusable item. That's not something that is easy to defend that decision. We all have seen items, like there was another one that came up recently where it was a ticket stub from the 1956 World Series, and it said it was the Los Angeles Dodgers, not the Brooklyn Dodgers. Again, that's a mistake. But I think that we have to, it's good to criticize companies when they make mistakes, because what that does is if you bring attention to their mistakes, it's going to help put in place more ways to prevent future mistakes. So I'm not saying we shouldn't criticize them, but I think at times we take these occasional mistakes and we get a little bit carried away. You know, I picked up my daughters. I was just talking. I picked up my daughters from the San Francisco airport on Saturday night. And on the way home, we went through the drive-thru. We went through In-N-Out Burger because Lucy's like, Dad, I want In-N-Out so bad. I was like, okay. So we ordered 3 orders of fries and we ordered 2 burgers. We got our food. We paid. We got our food. We ended up with 4 orders of fries and 2 burgers, but one of the burgers was like the one wrapped in lettuce instead of with a bun. So they literally screwed up both parts of our order. Okay? I don't take a picture of that, post it on social media, and go, In-N-Out, see? In-N-Out sucks. There they go again. They're absolute trash. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're throwing rotten tomatoes at the screen saying, but Greg, the problem here is if my card gets a 9 versus a 6, it could be thousands and thousands of dollars that I'm out because of their mistake. I have been as harsh on PSA's consistency and grading standards as anybody. That, to me, is the part that they've got to tighten up. But there are going to be times where they probably have an automated system and they're putting in the info on a flip and it's going to be wrong. There are going to be times you have a new employee who does something insane, like folds over a check. But we have to also keep in mind that if PSA is grading 1,000,000 cards a month, 1,000,000 cards a month, they're absolutely gonna make mistakes. And when they make mistakes, most likely people are going to enjoy sharing them. So I am 100% on board with trying to keep PSA's feet at the fire, to encourage them to get better. I think it's especially important now that they are slowly eliminating all of their competition, because what competition breeds is innovation. So if they are buying, again, I know there's going to be 2 people in the comments that think they're clever every month when you say, they'll say, PSA doesn't own SGC. Why do people think that? Guys, we get it. But even Nat Turner, the CEO of Collectors, commonly calls the company PSA. Why? Because they do 95% of the company's business. 95% of their revenue comes from the PSA label. Okay? So yes, we all understand Collectors is the umbrella company that owns several brands. They own WATA. W-A-T-A. What's WATA? It's a grading company for video games. But the main source of income is the PSA brand. Because of that, they kind of talk about it as PSA, even though they're technically called Collectors. So, enough about that. Now, as far as the comment about my buddy Mike Junkwax Hero talking about some of the other grading companies, he did a video recently where he said he was slab-gnostic. He doesn't care about who the grader is anymore. Great. I don't have any problem with that. I think if that brings Mike joy, that's fantastic. I think he said he did a CGC submission. Awesome. Do I think he's making a mistake? Not necessarily. If that is what makes Mike happy, that's what Mike should do. Do I think Mike is wrong? No. For me to put my value on who someone else uses as a grading company is inappropriate. Now, I've had people say, what do you think, Greg? If SGC went away, do you think you'd just go to CGC? Because CGC isn't PSA, and PSA is the devil. Well, that's where I want to talk about now. Why would so if SGC went away, in the hypothetical, and people say, I will not give PSA any money. By the way, just so we all are on the same page, right now, if you're submitting cards to SGC, you are supporting the company which is the lifeblood of PSA. So anybody right now sending cards to SGC is literally sending money to the pockets of the owners of PSA. So why would suddenly something change if the brand SGC went away and it was just the PSA brand, even though it's the same bank account? Okay, here's the deal. I think that a lot of us, whether we want to admit it or not, a lot of us care about the value of our collection. The value of our collection has to matter, because if we're spending the amounts of money that a lot of us are spending, we care about it. We don't want to buy something that's garbage. If we're going to use our hard-earned money on something, we want it to be something that we believe in, right? You want it to be something that you believe in. And whether people admit it or not, they care about their assets because even after we're gone, people that we care about will be the caretakers and the owners of those assets. If you didn't care about the value of your earthly possessions, why maintain your house? Just let the weeds grow. Why paint it? Why patch the hole on the roof? Who cares? Because when you're dead, it's not your problem. Someone else is going to inherit the house full of mold and walls that are deteriorating because of the leak that's been happening. We all care about the future value of our assets because the people who will be receiving those future assets are people that we care about. So I think it's important to establish for 99.999% of us, value matters. Okay. Now, if you look at the comparison between PSA and SGC, a lot of the times SGC brands hold a similar and slightly lower value than PSA, but both are very well respected. I know a lot of people who have cards in PSA holders. I know a lot of people who have cards in SGC holders. I have a lot of people that I know, including myself, that have cards in both holders. But here's my guess. Here's my hypothetical. You have the exact same card sitting in 3 holders on a case at the National. It's the exact same card, same year, same centering, same corners. It's in 3 different holders, a PSA, an SGC, and a CGC. I'd be willing to bet that at least 98% of people, of vintage card collectors, since that's predominantly who's watching this and participating here, at least 98% would prefer the card in the PSA or the SGC holder than the CGC holder. So if you care about values, and at least 98% of people as we stand today would pick the PSA or the SGC holder and their third choice would be CGC, then that means the demand for the CGC holder is less. That means the value of the CGC holder is less. And I know there are people saying, not me, I'm slabnostic. I don't care. It could be in any holder. If it's the same card, it doesn't matter to me which holder it's in. Well, if you care about future value, which I think most of us do, and the price was the same on the 3 cards, I think most people would agree that it would be better for the future value to go with the PSA or the SGC holder, because generally speaking, they have higher demand. So, do I think it's bad to go to CGC? No. Do I think people should, if it makes you happy? But as far as the future value is concerned, as things stand here in the first week of July in 2025, I think if we fast forwarded 10 or 20 years, the value of the PSA holder would probably be the highest, SGC would probably be second, and CGC would probably be third. So I know some people said, oh, when I was asked about what do I think about submitting to CGC, people go, oh, you just scoffed at the idea. Yes, Jim, I heard you say that. I saw you type that. But that's okay. But it's not because I think CGC sucks. It's not because I think CGC doesn't know what they're doing. It's because I think that would be most people's third choice. And the third choice means it would have the lowest value of the 3. I do care about values. Maybe that makes me dumb. One of the reasons I care about values is because if I decided I liked this card, it scratched the itch, but I want that card over there now a little bit more than this card that I'm holding in my hands in my collection, I want to be able to liquidate it for as much money as possible. I also want whoever ends up with my cards to be able to liquidate it for as much money as possible, and therefore going with the most trusted brand. And I know people hate PSA, and I know people have maybe been burned by PSA, but more people trust PSA as things stand right now. Most vintage collectors collect PSA and respect PSA standards more than SGC. So because of that, it's not that CGC is bad, but I would lean towards one of the other brands that is more widely accepted. Now, if you thought that this particular response was running long, this is going to be by far the longest response out of the questions this week. There's another follow-up question that I got on the video from Friday, the first part of the interview with Joe Perot and Dylan. And that question said, and I'm reading it, and I'll put it up here on the screen. There is a McCovey rookie in an SGC 3 that looks like a 6. I want it so bad, but the seller wants double of the last comps of the 3. I just can't do that. What would you do? Now, I'm going to tie this in with another thing that was said in the first comment. The first comment said, I'm ready to sell all my cards that are in holders, and I'm going to just go raw. I'm going to go ungraded, naked cards. Just like my buddy Jake over at Legends Never Die. He likes ungraded. I like ungraded too. But again, here's the problem. When someone goes to liquidate them someday, if they're not graded, even though it's the same card, it will not yield the same amount of money. But there's another aspect to this. I think cards, I personally, and I'm not trying to tell anyone else what to do. These questions are, what would you do, Greg? What do you think? For me, I like ungraded cards, but I'm not going to buy an expensive ungraded card off of eBay. I'm probably not going to buy an expensive ungraded card out of my local card shop because I don't fully trust myself. I don't trust myself measuring it. I don't fully trust my eyes, which are apparently starting to deteriorate. I like the fact that if a card is in a holder, another person has at least looked it over and maybe found different characteristics about the card that I personally may not see. I think most of us have at some point bought a card, walked away from the table, and then later looked at it and said, oh my gosh, I didn't see that. I wouldn't have bought it had I seen that. Well, what a grade does is it's not the be-all and end-all by any means, especially with the lack of consistency happening right now. But what a grade does is it gives us a clue. It provides some information. It doesn't mean it's perfect, but it means we have some potential information. If a card has a 3, and it said in the question that it was an SGC 3 that looks like a 6, I'm going to put up on the screen here the SGC standard for what a 3 can have. And I'm going to read it. The description of an SGC 3 is 90-10 or better centering, corners more rounded but not excessive, stronger creasing may exist. Poorer focus, registration, and discoloration and staining are more noticeable. So it's possible that there's stronger creasing on this 3. It's possible that there's discoloration, which sometimes if the card is discolored, you don't really notice it unless it's next to another card exactly the same. Maybe there's staining that you're not seeing because of the lighting. So if I buy a card in a 3 holder, in an SGC 3 holder, I should say, I have to think there could be a crease, there could be staining, there could be discoloration, and sometimes those things are hard to see. Even in person, sometimes those things are hard to see, but especially if you're buying it online. So, while I do not think that the grading industry is perfect, while PSA has recently had some blunders that we've all seen videos on and seen pictures of and getting passed around social media, they might be catching some things that are clues as to the quality of the card that we might be missing in our 2-minute analysis at the card show or at the card shop or online in a picture that could have been doctored. It provides us with information. So I do believe that grading companies can be helpful. And I actually think that they are a good assist, not decision maker, assist when buying a card. It can provide us with information that we might not be able to see with our own eyes in that moment, that we can go, there might be a wrinkle in this card. There might be some staining that I'm missing. It doesn't mean that there is. It means there might be. So, when you have a situation where there's a card that's in a 3 holder, but it looks like a 6, is it possible that SGC gave the 6 a 3? Yes. But is it also possible that we might be missing something that the technology at SGC picked up? Yes. So, if people want to collect raw cards, do it. If people want to submit to CGC, knock yourself out. If people want to hate PSA, they want to hate SGC, they want to throw tomatoes at me because we, as a group, largely call collectors PSA. Also because it's confusing when you say collectors. Collectors Universe was better when they called themselves Collectors Universe, which sometimes they still do, even though it's technically collectors, because when I say collectors said this, is it the company that we're talking about or is it the community that we're talking about? It's kind of not the best name. Collectors. So collectors decided this. Wait, collectors the company or collectors the people in the hobby? Because those are collectors too. It can be a little confusing. So, nonetheless, did I answer the questions? I don't know. But I had fun talking about it. I do know that.
And my buddy over at Redneck Collector, which, by the way, if you're not subscribed to his channel, you should check it out. He says, hey, Greg, as a vintage collector who is also involved in Pokemon pretty heavily because of my son, I can tell you that Pokemon is here to stay. You and I are the same age, and we didn't grow up with it, but the fan base is just as passionate and nuanced as any other sports card segment of the hobby. This also leads me to a question for you. Explain to me the difference between a dealer and a flipper. Based on what I've heard, shouldn't Ash, Garrett, William Chappell, Kit Young, and all the others be considered flippers too? I can't figure out what delineates the two. Thanks, as always, for the great discussion starters.
All right. Now, first off, Redneck Collector, check out his channel. Great guy. Looking forward to meeting him. I don't think we've ever met. You weren't at Strongsville. I look forward to meeting you at the National. But with that said, I agree that Pokemon is here to stay. I don't think that I said that it wasn't here to stay. I think that what I said was that at card shows, because the question was asking me about if Pokemon was harming card shows, I think what I was saying was that Pokemon is more... Pokemon cards and Pokemon collectors are more in-person type people and negotiators and transactioners than cards necessarily need to be. And so I don't think Pokemon's going away. I think Pokemon is probably growing. I do think there will probably be a correction in the not too distant future on some of the Pokemon prices. If people are into Pokemon, cool. I don't understand Pokemon. I don't know anything about it. I know there are numbers. I know it's a game. I don't understand it. I'm not interested in it. Just like some people are interested in sports cards or anything that I collect. People aren't interested in pirate cards. Cool. I am. I collect them. Great. If you like Pokemon, knock yourself out. It's not for me. It never will be for me. And that's okay. We don't have to all like the same things. That would be a very boring world. To your question, the question that I wanted to give my thoughts on, because I don't think that there's an answer. What's the difference between a dealer and a flipper? I don't think that there's like a Webster's dictionary answer for this is a dealer and this is a flipper. Here's kind of my interpretation though. I believe that a flipper is a person who has absolutely no vested interest in what it is that they're buying and selling. It's simply a commodity. A home flipper is a person who buys this asset and wants to sell it for more. Maybe do something to it to add value and then sell it. It's like you could be a flipper of precious metals like, gold and silver. It doesn't matter if it's gold and silver. It doesn't matter if it's real estate. It doesn't matter if it's cards. It doesn't matter if it's, shoes, Jordans, old vintage Jordans. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just you are buying commodities and then you are selling commodities at X plus Y. Y being your profit. I go to estate sales. So again, a lot of people said, "Man, Greg, your budget has gone up on cards. Remember when you used to just have a budget of $150 a month?" Well, one of the things I'm really having fun doing is I go to flea markets, I go to estate sales, I go to garage sales, I buy stuff, and then I sell it for more. And I win some, I lose some, but overall, every dollar I get from doing that is added to my card budget. I do that to help pay for cards. And I mean, just this last weekend, I bought old books, have no interest in the book. I just knew that the book was worth a lot more than what they were asking for it. I bought some refrigerator water filters. I don't even own that brand of refrigerator, but I knew they were worth way more than I was buying them for. Anytime I go to an estate sale, I could care less what I'm buying. I'm just simply buying something where I feel like there's some meat on the bone. And if there's enough meat on the bone that it's worth putting money into it, so I think I can make a little bit to add to my card budget, I'm going to do it. That's a flipper. A dealer, I believe, is somebody who is really invested in that hobby, in that community, in that group of people, who has a respect and an appreciation for what it is that they're buying and selling. Okay? So my guy Tim Payne, my buddy Ash, William Chappell, like those guys have a lot of respect for cards and the history of cards. And they in a lot of cases, dealers are collectors themselves as well, because they really appreciate what it is that they're buying and selling. A flipper like me at a garage sale could care less what I'm buying. I'm going to buy it if I can make money from it. So some people flip sports cards, some people flip Pokemon cards because they buy it here, they sell it here, and they make a profit. So that's kind of my definition, is a flipper doesn't care what they're buying and selling. They're just trying to buy low, sell high of whatever, and maybe they get good at knowing about this one particular industry. A dealer is a person who has a long-term vested interest in that particular industry, who has a respect and an appreciation for the hobby and the health of that hobby or industry, instead of just trying to make a margin, get their money, and move on. That's my thoughts. Tell me what you guys think, if you agree or disagree.
This next one says, thanks for answering my question about Pokemon and Modern taking over the card shows. Truthfully, when I went to that local show, I was shocked at how much Pokemon was there and how little vintage was there. It seems to be a trend that is not good for vintage collectors. New question for this week. Do you think that consignment sellers on eBay and other formats are hurting the average individual seller? I have found that since these consignment people have zero attachment to the cards they sell and could care less what they sell for, since they just get a commission on those sales, it hurts the little guy who is just trying to get value for his sales items. Consignment sellers are also flooding the online formats with huge amounts of inventory. Your thoughts?
Okay, do I think consigning is hurting the average seller? I don't. I don't think that consigning is hurting the average seller. In some cases, I think consigning helps the average seller. Now, I'm going to have more of a vested interest in an item if I'm selling it than the consigner is. But the consigner also wants to do well. They want it to sell for a lot, because otherwise, why would I use them again? One of the things that happens on like an eBay is if I sell something on eBay, I don't know the exact numbers, so don't throw darts at me. But if I sell something on eBay, let's say I have to pay eBay 15% on the final sale price, okay? Some of these dealers that are these consigners that are doing huge bulk, they get like discounted rates. So instead of paying 15%, they might pay like 11%. And then what they might do is pay me 15 or 16%. I mean, they might charge me 15 or 16%. So if I list a card myself on eBay, I'm going to get 85% of the proceeds. But if I send it to Four Sharp Corners or Probstein or whoever, they might pay me 85% or 84% because they're only having to pay like 11%. So what they get is the 4% margin between what eBay charges me when I'm just selling a few things and what eBay charges them when they're doing huge amounts of bulk. So for a lot of collectors, time is the most valuable commodity in the world. It is. Just ask anybody on their deathbed, what do you wish you had right now? They'd say more time. But I think that if I could take my cards and I could sell them, send them to Four Sharp Corners, and Four Sharp Corners is going to send me 84% of the sale price on eBay. Or I could take the pictures. I could list it. I could sell it. I could package it up. I could take it to the post office. I could print out the labels, all that stuff. and get 85%, I think you can make a really strong argument that it actually makes more sense to send it to a consignor. And the consignor, that's what they do. Is it hurting us? I don't think so, but I also think that, when I look up for something for sale on eBay, for example, I'm just using eBay because a lot of us have used it, and the seller has zero feedback, I'm like, I don't know about this. But if I see it's 4 sharp corners, I'm going to go, oh, there's no shenanigans going to happen here, because they are a known commodity. They're more trustworthy because they have thousands and thousands of sales in a history. It's the same reason why my car insurance is less than a 16-year-old who just got their driver's license. I have 30 years of driving history to say what kind of driver I am. A 16-year-old has no driving history. So you have no idea whether that person is going to immediately drive head on into incoming traffic. And the insurance company has to protect themselves against that. So I think it makes sense that a lot of people are more comfortable buying from a consignment company. And I think that if it's only costing you 1% extra or something because they get a discounted rate because they do so much bulk, that I don't have to deal with it. I could just send them all my cards and they handle it, and then I just get my money. I think a lot of people could make a pretty strong argument how consigning and consignment shops actually kind of help us, the potential collector who's trying to move some cards to move into a different card. I'm totally okay if people think I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, tell me why I'm wrong, because I'm very, very open to saying, oh, no, I blew it on that one. I was wrong. But that's my initial response. I've never used a consignment company. I usually don't buy from things that are on consignment companies. But that's kind of my perspective. At least it is at this moment.
This next one says, my question for you is, how has being on YouTube affected your collecting habits? Do you get caught up buying what others have? With all your friends in the community, has that driven you more to advance your collection as opposed to just being a collector without a channel?
So a lot of people would say to this, oh no, being on YouTube, it hasn't affected what I do at all. It hasn't affected how I collect at all. I've always been me and I just share what I do. And I think there's some truth to that for me, but I would say that MidLife Nation has absolutely left an impression on me. Every month I do card pickup videos, the MidLife Community Show and Tell, and MidLife Nation brings it every single month. And every month I see a card, at least one card, if not multiple cards, where I go, man, that thing's pretty cool. There was a Pele card in this last MidLife Community Show and Tell, and I'm like, man, I really should get that Pele card. It's not his most expensive card. It's like his second or third most expensive card, but I love the card. And after seeing that episode, it's come back into my consciousness, and I'm like, I might kind of have an eye out for one of those at the National. If I see a nice one of those, I might get that. Then my buddy Darren, he just, I think it was yesterday, did his pickup video, and he picked up a really cool Ogden Jesse Owens card. And it reminded me that there's a particular Jesse Owens card that I love. I love Jesse Owens. Jesse Owens quite possibly might be in my top 3 favorite historical figures, athletes, stories of all time. I love Jesse Owens. And I went, oh yeah, Jesse Owens, as I'm thinking about the National, which is coming up here in less than a month. So what it does is there are lots of things that kind of show up in front of you and you become aware of it, and then it kind of falls off your radar again. And it's not that you don't like it. It just kind of fell off your radar. It's like that friend that you used to hang out with a lot, and you got busy and they got busy and their kid got into club volleyball and your kid got into club soccer, and you haven't seen them that much in a while. And then you run into them at the grocery store and you're like, man, I really like that guy. Why don't we hang out anymore? They came back into your consciousness. They showed back up in your life, and you're like, man, forgot how much I liked them. It's kind of like that. So what I feel like what YouTube has done is it's not the keeping up with the Joneses so much as it's reminding me, watching YouTube, being around it, having people submit things, having people write responses and comments and questions. It reminds me of things that I like, or it maybe exposes me to things that I'm like, I don't know if I've ever seen that card before, but it's fantastic. That kind of thing definitely happens. And then occasionally somebody will make a video or something that I'll watch. My buddy Tony Liebrick, he did a video, a couple months ago, month and a half ago, about why he likes autographed cards. And I was never that into autographed cards. And it kind of made me go, yeah, he makes some really good points. And then that day, I went and bought a Gale Sayers autographed Playing Days card. So, yeah, it has affected me. But the main thing that it's done is I think it's reminded me or reacquainted me with things that I maybe kind of just fell off my radar. And that's one of the things I love. One of the things I love about this is when you guys ask questions, when you guys submit pickups, when you guys respond to things that I say, when you guys comment back and forth with each other, it makes me think. And when people present arguments or they present opinions or they present likes or dislikes, I'm constantly evaluating, what do I think about that? And it does leave an impression.
This next one says, my question is common. If I have a big ticket item to sell, in your opinion, is it much better to give it to an auction house, or in your opinion, can you do just as well, or maybe better, on eBay? I'm in no great hurry.
All right, this is an interesting one. I probably don't have a good response because I don't know if I really have many big ticket items. So when I give advice or an opinion, I genuinely share my thought process of what I've done when I was in that situation. I had a friend call me the other day and he goes, man, I got to paint the inside of my house because we're going to sell it. I don't want to paint it. Should I hire a painter? What do you think? And I'm like, no, you shouldn't hire a painter because you're a teacher. You have the next month and a half off. You have nothing going on. And you're going to spend all this money on a painter when you have no reason not to paint yourself. And he was like, yeah, I knew you were going to say that. And I said, here's the deal. You're never going to get ahead in life if you pay other people to do things that you're capable of doing. I don't really want to mow my lawn, which I did this morning. I don't really want to mow the lawn. But you know what's worse than mowing the lawn? Paying somebody to mow my lawn. I don't want to spend money on things that I'm capable of doing. But sometimes I do. But anyway, what am I even talking about? What's the question? The question is, should I use a consignment company for a big ticket item? My gosh, I'm getting old. I'd say yeah. I would say like an auction house. If again, my definition of a big ticket item is like $300. But I think what you're asking is like, you've got a $10,000 card. You've got a Sandy Koufax autographed ticket stub from his first appearance in Major League Baseball? Should you put it on eBay yourself, or should you call up, Golden or REA or Mile High to sell it for you? I would probably go to the auction house. Believe it or not, a lot of cards on eBay are more everyday kind of cards, everyday kind of card collector cards. The auction houses, there are a lot of big collectors in the hobby that barely, if at all, pay attention to eBay listings. They just wait for the auction houses. That doesn't mean they never look on eBay, but I look on eBay multiple times a day because I'm at the shallow end of the pool. But some of the whales, they're probably not going to find a lot of stuff that they're looking for on eBay, so they don't really bother. And then what happens is the card shows up at REA and they call REA and they say, tell me about the card. Look at it with me. Describe it to me. Send me extra pictures. It's more of a white gloves sort of treatment. And that is catered toward big time buyers for big time items. So if I had an item that was worth tens of thousands of dollars, I personally absolutely would not list that on eBay. I would absolutely instead send that into one of the big auction house companies. But with that said, I don't have any cards that fit that category. So pretty much all of my cards are eBay type cards. Now again, I'm not saying that there aren't some big cards on eBay. Of course there are. But that's not how I would sell them. I would probably list them with an auction house, because the other thing is a lot of the auction houses, they have buyers for things. So that big ticket item call comes in and they go, we have these 7 Sandy Koufax collectors. We're going to call all of them and tell them about this autographed ticket stub from Sandy's MLB debut, and they might be interested in it. So it's more, it's not just about where people are paying attention. It's about a lot of the marketing and a lot of the sales that goes on behind the scenes too. Just my take, doesn't make it right, just an opinion. This is really questions and opinions. It's certainly not answers. I'm just providing an opinion. That said, MidLife Live number 7 is on Monday. So who will be joining me? Well, check it out right here.
Oh boy, this is going to be another great MidLife Live. We've got Jake of Wax Pack Wisdom, Mike, Junk Wax Hero, and Dan of Dan's Vintage Baseball PC. We're running it back.
I'm not good at it. Like Greg of MidLife Cards does an amazing job with his AMAs. I'm not going to live up to that. If you're expecting that, go over to his channel.
Slap yourself on the side of the head and say, why didn't I think of that?
I don't have a crystal ball.
A tangential rant here, Greg. I have now, because you mentioned this and you made me paranoid about it, I'm not having another live stream because of it. It's made me think you're in my head.
I shipped them away for garbage, absolute trash.
Get that needle out of your arm and watch my show.
We met at a McDonald's parking lot,
I don't mind being an oddball.
but occasionally I get a little frustrated.
My wife makes sandwiches at the local religious affiliation place.
67 pinups. Remember, Jeff, when you opened a cello pack of the 76 Tops, whatever, and there was a pinup of Roberto Clemente? Obviously, maybe you don't remember that, but you also didn't know what that was.
I'm not threatening you, buddy, but I'm saying right now, I'm a lawyer.
I don't know what's going to happen. Why am I a fan of the Red Sox?
Your views are evolving. That doesn't make you stupid.
and it's just not true.
I'm going to have a 24-hour live stream, Greg, and you are going to be on all 24 hours. I had to go to Wikipedia to look up Cuban Missile Crisis. I mean, I've heard of it, but I'm not 80 years old like you, and I'm not a teacher like Greg.
It was not my idea.
You can call anything you want a Grail card.
I am out in front of TD Garden, home of the world champion Boston Celtics and whatever the hell the Bruins are.
I'm not a hobby positivity guy, but
Put me on the full screen here.
Okay.
Here we go.
I have nothing of value to add here. Were we on a live stream? I don't remember that.
And it's just false.
Everything is an oddball, then nothing is, except the one that isn't.
Well, how's it going, Dan? What's going on over there? You got sunglasses on.
so, I'm an advanced age.
We know.
Greg of MidLife Cards does an amazing job,
17 months they held this card from me.
Is that a
And
long
it-
time?
These are the ramblings of a semi-literate fan here.
Hey, we're here to talk about cards of people who are irrelevant in the hobby, but does anybody have one of Dan?
And I love that you did that video, Greg, because it proves exactly what I think, which is that PSA, when it comes to grading vintage baseball, doesn't know anything.
I appreciated that 25-minute intro so I could take a little nap. All right, all. Thank you very much. This was a blast. I had a great time, but Celtics game with my family. Gotta go. Thanks,
Well,
Greg,
thanks for
having me.
coming on, buddy. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
See you.
Bye, Mike.
Had a great time.
See you, dude. So now is this where we start talking crap about Mike? This is a fun group of guys, and this is going to be a very, very entertaining night.